Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to the showdown between the Greenskins and Tomb Kings. It's going to be myself with the Goblin Great Shaman facing off against Catholic here, who is going to be rocking Kontep here on Itza. And this is the grand finals of a tournament. We had a 3x3 tournament about a week ago, probably, if this is being posted on the schedule I'm expecting. And it was quite a good fight. Now, as far as my build goes, it is going to be pretty standard Greenskins. Combination of Orc Boys and Savage Orcs in the front line. Savage Orcs are very, very good at killing skeletons. Like, they have huge DPS output, 40 melee attack, 39 weapon strength. Almost the charge bonus of like an Empire Knight, basically. So if you can get them into the front lines against like skeleton spears or various other skeleton units, even against Tomb Guard, yes, they would lose to a Tomb Guard one-on-one, but they'll do some good damage, and they also cost like 200 less. Very cost-effective unit for sure, and that's kind of the thing, right? Like, Wurzag got nerfed, and a lot of people are saying Greenskins are going to be bad, whatever, but Greenskins have so many good cost-effective units, right? Like, all their chaff units are pretty solid. The WA is still very good. They have Trolls. Orc Boar Biggins are insane. Some of the best cav in the game, in my opinion, for what they do. Squigs are top tier. Their archers are really, really cost-effective and also stalwart in melee. There's so much they bring to the table, and there's a reason why. I think they have the highest win rate on Total Tavern right now, but nonetheless, Orc Boys and Savage Orcs in the front line. Back row is going to be a combination of Night Goblin Archers and Orc Air Boys and the Rusty Errors, and that's pretty much it for the starting army. Just a very wide stack. I have 16, right? So for the Tomb Kings here on this side, it is going to be the Catholic Alcoholic, and he is going to be rocking Skeleton Spears, and this is the old school pencil formation. You saw this in land battles in Warhammer 2 towards the end when those really good Vampire Count players would be playing against factions that were hard hitting in the front lines. You put them in this formation so that there's less surface area of your units being hit, and it kind of accomplishes the same goal of road blocking, especially since you know Skeleton Spears won't do much damage in the first place. Tomb Guard in the secondary, I really like the Screaming Skull Catapult. It's a great tech against archers and diminishes the enemy's leadership and makes them get terror routed much easier if you have terror, or it can just break their leadership outright. Single Ushapti Greatbow, Chosen of the Gods, would be the ideal choice here. Most Greenskin players aren't going to bring anything big against Tomb Kings. They're going to go wide, and the Chosen of the Gods do have that like anti-infantry profile sort of, or anti-wide, where they have that spray fire. So moving up on all three objectives, you can see the Greatbows do get some work done on the River Trolls, and now the Hordes of Hell are going to be advancing on the Tomb Kings for the rest of his army. It is going to be Nehekar Warriors with Ushapti, and Kontep is hiding in the trees, which is very smart because I do have the Goblin Great Shaman, which basically you just bring him dirt cheap with a Vindictive Glare and don't even try it. And what you can do is just nuke enemy characters. And if Tomb Kings like send their lords and heroes out and decide to try and fight you, they're going to be having a terrible time. So this was a very sneaky play. I had some Night Goblin Archers, and they have stock, so I got pretty close to the Screaming Skull Catapult here. So these little gremlins are going to be moving up and trying to rip some shots. So you gotta love the goblins. I'm actually going to be starting a Goblin army for the old world, which is, it's, you know, Orcs and Goblins tribes, right? But we're going to be doing a pure Goblin army, which is going to be great. So we do get a nice volley, does some damage, but my opponent reacts quicker than I had hoped for. Tomb Guard come out, and he also calls out some Nehekar Horsemen, so not great for me, so the little goblins are going to be scattering to the wind. And now we're going to be moving out and looking to engage against my opponent as the Squig Herds come up with a backup of Orc Biggins on the way. Trolls are hiding back here, and they're going to be my dreaded tactical reserves for now. And now Orc Boys are going to be bashing into the Skeleton Spears, but also taking some of the Screaming Skulls, and not what they want to be doing. But even still, they will win this fight. It's going to take a long time. Good tactics from my opponent. And now the Ushapti come in. So Ushapti are pretty good in this matchup. They're resilient against most of the Greenskin troopers. Obviously don't want to be fighting my armor-piercing tools like Squigs, and Rusty Errors getting a good angle on them is also not good for my opponent here, but Catapults raining fire into the Orc Air Boys, and the Rusty Errors ripping some very cost-effective shots into the Ushapti, so you can see the not Boshapti, but Ushapti in the front line getting wrecked. But my opponent, very sneaky, he moved one of his pencil formation units through this little choke point here, which kind of compromised one of my archers, felt pretty bad. Up in the high ground, we do have the River Trolls and the Savage Orcs collapsing in. We got Orc Boys and Savage Orcs coming in from several angles, and they're going to be under heavy pressure now. I'm down a little bit in value, and the Tomb Kings do have constant healing from Kontep casting spells and also from Realm of Souls, so there are a couple things that in a long grindy game can go their way, but I feel as if I have a good angle on their backfield. Some Savage Orcs did sneak around the side and are going to be raising their choppas, getting in there with their war paint baby, and it's time to take these guys to the bone zone. And obviously the Boshapti will be able to kite them back, and we'll get trapped in combat with Tomb Guard, but it's not the worst thing in the world. Fighting Tomb Guard with Savage Orcs is moderately cost effective, right? The Skeleton Spears here getting cut to pieces. Savage Orcs doing great work up in the high ground. Tomb Guard Halberds holding valiantly though. Good choice from him. They're very good against trolls and have high melee defense against generic Greenskin troopers, but we do have them triple capped, and with the way he built, obviously a pretty defensive opening with Boshapti as well as the Screaming Skull Catapult, it's going to be giving me the opportunity to triple cap him with a very wide, aggressive Greenskin army, and that's what Greenskins do so well. Even if you do end up losing like fights at the end game, sometimes you're so far ahead and you have such good cost-effective mobility that you can contest the points, right? So archers creeping in on the side. The wall goes down in the valley. The boys are pissed. And there is going to be... Are they really pissed, though? I think they're just excited. I don't think that the Greenskins are, like, pissed off. Like, it's not like corn. It's like a comedic thing more so. It's like that they're just hyped. Also forgot to mention, he does have the Necrotect with the Van Braces. This does do flaming damage and also applies Blinded, which is super good. So this can mitigate the DPS of Trolls and various units. So mixing in the Necrotect is a really, really good choice here. I really like that a lot. But we do collapse the flank here. The Skeletons up on the high ground getting wrecked pretty badly. And now the Savage Orcs going to be storming down the hills and the River Trolls coming in. Now, River Trolls, I think, are more cost-effective than Stone Trolls because Stone Trolls cost 200 more, and yes, to get the missile resist, but these guys cost only 900 compared to 1100, and they do have a nice debuff, the Odor as well. I believe it's -5 melee attack to nearby units, which is quite good, -6, yeah. So suddenly these, Tomb Guard are down to 26 melee attack, which is pretty weak, right? So the middle, they haven't been able to push us back. We get Orc Biggins in. Orc Biggins are great fighters, good dual-purpose units, and they also got a cost reduction in the most recent patch, so 38 and 28. These guys are chopping away on the Skeletons, and here we have Orc Boys going to be losing to the Ushopti eventually, but the whole backfield is looking to be in a very precarious situation here for the Tomb Kings as more and more Savage Orcs move up. My Goblin Great Shaman gets a little bit trapped up there. He's trying to escape, but honestly, Catholic's been doing a really good job hiding his Lord. Like, Kotep is always in combat or hiding by Ushopti or something. I've been able to blast him once or twice, but have not been able to really get a good open field shot on him. He's been very, very sneaky. So Goblin's going to be trying to get away now. And the tactical trolls are now on their way back in. I did forget about them for a long time. Not gonna lie. It was I just straight forgot them. Happens to the best of us. But the Boshopti are once again compromised. So the Savage Orcs on top of them. We do also have Night Goblin Archers shooting away. And the Catapult is offline. So the Savage Orcs were able to take down the Screaming Skull Catapult. And we have surpassed them in value, but with healing being taken into account, they're probably slightly ahead. Well, I don't know. I would say maybe I'm ahead because of Crumbling. Crumbling isn't included in the damage meter up top, and there's a lot of crumbling damage that's been taken by the Tomb Kings here, which isn't included. So I'm probably still slightly ahead in terms of value, I would say. And once again, another wall going down. The boys going to be stomping their feet, getting real hyped here in the valley as they continue crumping through these constructs. Kind of curious about, what they're fighting here. Ushopti do take a really bad fight against Trolls, so River Trolls just absolutely taking these guys to Pound Town. Meanwhile, the Orc Boy is going to be chasing down these Skeleton Archers here, and this Necrotect has been one of the more cost-effective characters for sure. He has been blinding. That Van Braces item is something that, as an aspiring Tomb Kings player, I should definitely be mixing in a little bit more. So a lot of rallying units. One thing I'm not doing very well is unsummoning, which could lead to a situation where I run out of infantry reinforcements. Like, in retrospect, I should have been unsummoning the Orc Boys and the Savage Orcs here. Granted, I keep just sending them back in, but when they're that low, it's probably just worth the unsummon. Because he's starting to get kind of a Death Star in the middle of sorts. He does have the double Ushopti as well as Kotep. The Boshopti were able to stabilize once again, and they put big hurt on my Trolls here. You can see Shieldbreaker going down, and I do start to lose the middle point, which at this point I was like, I felt as if I had this game in the bag when I was looking at the score, but I was like, wait a second, I still have actually have a chance of getting back in the game here. We'll have to see. My push in the backfield going okay. Night Goblin Archer is going to be scurrying back to the point. I saw him starting to split push me here. Maybe he felt as if he was starting to get a bit of a value lead on me, so he could afford to send things away from the fight towards the objective. So these Agabo Archers going to be fleeing. Meanwhile, these Chad Savage Orcs here, as far as value, up to 600, so they paid for themselves. They only cost 550. And they did a lot of damage against good, cost-effective troops, but they are 3v1'd here. Probably will be losing that. So in response to the split push, I call in Squigs. Not because Squigs are particularly good against spear units, but it's because that's all I had. Most of my infantry units are on the battlefield right now. I started with a very wide infantry stack, so that was starting to become a bit of a problem as the Tomb Kings do grab objective number 2, and they have a very concentrated Death Star, which is not fun for me. Night Goblin Archers here are going to get rode down by the Nahakar Horsemen, so here they come. It's going to be a bit of a nice charge there, and Nahakar Horsemen are a great unit. One of the better light cav, I think, for the cost in the game. 38 weapon strength is incredibly high, and they can butcher these type of units. But, Orc Warboy Biggins, those type of heavy cav can really shut them down. I do have 8 peak loonies here, so I have a really high cap weight unit. Well, I suppose they're 5 cap weight. Yeah, they're not expendable, right? And they do have Unbreakable, so that's going to be hard for the Bone Daddies to get rid of. Up on the high ground here, I just have my archers, my Night Goblin Archers shooting into the Skeleton Spearmen. I'm just like, hey, let's just park my Squigs over here. There's no sense in fighting these guys. We'll use our archers to blast them, and then the Squigs are going to be lurking in the shadows. So you can see look how adorable these little mushroom guys are. They're pretty awesome, huh? Yes, the Squig's going to be hanging out, and the Skeleton Archers getting melted while some Orc Boys make their way back to the point. And Rusty Arrow's moving up, Unsummon's going down, so finally going to get some Unsummons. and get some infantry back in the pool here, but keeping a couple on the field, including the river trolls, to try and hold the high ground point. You can see it looks like he's wanting to maneuver up to the high ground here because he already has a concentrated force moving there. So the Ushabti are going to head up to support. And I know it's a Helm's Deep situation. I can anchor down on any one point. On this side, it's going really well. The AP Kaloonies, despite being hammered by this Necrotech, are fighting incredibly well. They, of course, have a high model count, pretty good combat stats. Not when debuffed by the blinded Van Braces, but they're hanging in there. So he did rout my lord. Now, this was a big thing. The Goblin Great Shaman does get shot by the Boshapti, but I do manage to save him by grabbing the Forest Goblin Spider Riders, and at this point, he is going to be coming back. So I'll just unsummon him and send him back to the Goblin Den there, where he's going to be able to lick his wounds. It's just too risky bringing him out. If he dies, I take a big penalty in my leadership, right? I mean, I could hide him in the trees. It wouldn't make much of a difference, but... The Orc Warboy Biggins on the way back in. Usirian's coming, so I did call in Orc Warboy Biggins, and I saw the Ushabti had overextended a little bit, and I also had trolls up here, so these Ushabti are just god-awful against anything that's not infantry. They have really low melee attack in the 20s. Right now, they're actually at 18 because of the overwhelming odor. You think statues wouldn't care about that, but I suppose they do. Still have kind of, granite nostrils, but they get wrecked really bad by those Warboys. Obviously anti-large. Trolls themselves just have better stats and higher armor piercing. So that's a really, really good fight for me. And on that note, crumbling this Ushabti push, I think, might be the straw that breaks the camel's back. Overall, the value is pretty similar. He might be a little bit ahead, but I honestly don't think so. Looking on the battlefield, he doesn't have a whole lot, and I think the crumbling has been a big variable. Goblin Archers, even though when they're out of ammo, not terrible in melee, they do apply poison too. So we come back here, we start poisoning these guys, which is going to be lowering a multitude of their stats. They also have sundered armor. And we're going to crush this Tomb King's position. The Trolls, as well as the Boarboy Biggins, probably going to be winning this position. Spears moving in. Boshapti are about out of ammo. They've gotten good value this game, I would wager. Yeah, 1,800. But this side is also a bit of a loss for the Tomb Kings, right? We got Tomb Guard Halberds moving in, more Tomb Guard Halberds, but I can swarm them probably. We do have Orc Airboys who are going to put some hurt on them, and if with surrounds and my big wave of reinforcements coming in, we do have the Savage Orcs moving up, as well as the Forest Goblin Spider Riders and Squig Herds. It's going to be a pretty bad time for these guys. So that is going to be probably GG well played. At this point, the Tomb Guard move up. We, like I said, send in the Goblins, and the Goblins are trading mega cost effectively, like even just having, a little bit of HP left. And the high ground's looking good for us too. The Tomb Kings, maybe, if the game was 100 years long, might be able to get it, but we do grind these guys out. They're not able to get past the wall of Squigs and Savage Orcs, and yet another wall goes down as the boys close out the game with the big crumpin'. Squigs doing somersaults, and the Bone Daddies certainly having a hard time contesting the melee fight against one of the kings of melee, which is the Greenskins. Very powerful indeed. And also, we were about to recap the middle here. So, yeah, Greenskins are crazy strong, man. You guys probably remember that from a tournament a week or two ago where we had a Houseplant win with them. And he was basically just doing this. It's like, it's just, super wide, cheap lord, taking advantage of the cost effectiveness of their individual units. And yeah, it's really powerful. There are some matchups I would probably not enjoy, but I don't know, what would be really good against Greenskins? I'm trying to think, nothing feels great. Maybe Slanesh can do well against them now that Wurzag is gone. Their Wa through the Blissful Rapture would be better. That could perhaps be the case. I don't know, something to experiment with. I'm just getting back into the swing of things, And don't worry, for anybody who's interested, we're going to be getting back into heavy tournament play once we get some more updates and, hopefully get some new stuff here in the future. So should be fun. GG well played. Looking at the units here, we do have 700 value. The Ushabti did good, did okay. Boshapti were nice. Catapult only got 500 value. It looks like he had the Stalker, which I wonder why he had this. I guess against Boarboys. Yeah, I always feel like these guys can be a trap in matchups where your opponent's going to be going very wide. For us, it was just Savage Orc Swarm. Some of them did really good. 900, 700. Archers did great. What's not to love? All right, guys, the Wa is here. Take care of yourselves, and that is it for tonight.